Today I'm kitbashing Abaddon into an Iron Warrior's Terminator Lord. Of course, I'm gonna start with the actual Abaddon body, but I'm gonna scrape all the decorations off because especially this, like the Eye of Horus, no self-respecting Iron Warrior is gonna walk around with this kind of things on his armor. Smooth as a baby's bottom, just needs a little bit of sanding and some glue to smooth it completely. But I like this sort of defaced look of the armor because in my corner of the Warhammer 40k universe, Iron Warriors are not immune to chaos corruption. Their bodies mutate, they hack off the limb and they replace it with a prosthetic. But I want to show that the armor of the Iron Warriors is kind of betraying them as well. The armor is mutating. There are these decorations like this over here. That skull, it is growing on the armor and the armor is changing, and they are just like the bodies they have themselves. They try to lop it off and hack it off and sort of deface that part of the armor that is mutating. I think that's a much cooler story than just having a smooth armor that is somehow immune to the powers of the warp. Now over here I still got to scratch off this chaos icon, but I'm also going to get rid of this flap of cloth. It's another one of those things where I think organic material or an Iron Warrior's Terminator Lord, the only thing organic that he's going to be carrying around are the trophies of his enemies. Now I can't imagine an Iron Warrior's Terminator Lord going into battle without his helmet. That doesn't make sense. So I just got to decapitate Abaddon over here, and then I'll glue everything together and I'll figure out how I can fit this Terminator helmet inside. There, it will need a little bit of shaving and work, but I can make that fit, no problem at all. I'm just going to leave it out for now because I want to make sure that I got the pose right, and then he actually needs to look at something. So I can't just glue the head in now and figure out later how I'm going to position the body. That's the wrong way around. Let me just finish up with all these shoulder pads, his hosing, his piping. And I think it's time we start looking at the weapons. Because there's no way I'm going to kitbash an Iron Warrior's Terminator Lord with a sword and its possessed demon sword on top of that. Now, he's going to get a beautiful hammer, and this one is coming from the Warpsmith kit. The only issue is the Warpsmith is holding the hammer in his right hand, and Abaddon is holding the hammer in his left hand. So I'm just going to have to go back to the Terminator sprue, the Chaos Terminator sprue, get one of these hands off a bolter, and see if I can pin the weapon in there. There, that looks pretty good. It's even without pinning. I just managed to glue it in place and it's fairly straight. I'm quite happy with it. Now on the other side he has the claw, and this time I'm gonna use Abaddon's actual power claw. Unlike when I made this Word Bearer's Abaddon, I went for a demon claw. That of course doesn't work for Iron Warriors, so I'm going with the original. But I don't really want him to stand like Abaddon, like this. I really like this model, the Siegebreaker Consul from 30k. And I want to see if I can make something like that, but then scaled up Terminator size. So I got this piece over here from the Genestealer cults, the Nexus. They have this nice table that is powered, and I want to see if I can have my Terminator Lord standing here, pointing down at that table to show where the next assault is going to be. And so that means I'm going to have to cut off his arm right here at the elbow, so I can turn it around and make it look like he has his arm twisted. Now, very gentle. Ah, there's his leg going. I should have done this right away when I was assembling him. But back then I didn't have this idea of making him point down yet. What the hell happened here? Suddenly his arm is about twice as long, and I didn't add anything. It's just a tiny bit of poster putty in there. This just looks weird, but it's there. It is kind of the direction I want to go, something like this. I'll have to get a different helmet, I think, to make him look down, or just position him a little bit up like this so we can actually look down on that table. The hand, though, the arm, I gotta go see if I can do something else. Maybe a Terminator hand or arm instead of this. I don't know, maybe it looks better with the shoulder pad on top. You know, it does look a little bit better, but it just looks like his arm is way too long. I think I got the solution. I'm just gonna leave out his elbow. This is the part that I cut off the arm and that the claw is supposed to fit onto. I just take it out and I just glue this right on there. And now it looks like both his arms are sort of the same length. I mean, this looks much better. I don't know what happened over there, but like this, and then I can cover it with the shoulder pad. I think that's going to be good enough. I'm just going to use poster putty for the claw, glue the shoulder pad in place, and I'm going to figure out how I'm going to position him. Here we go. I mean, that's a pretty decent pose, and who would say he has lost his elbow? You can't even see it. Cool. That elbow goes into my bits box. Who knows when I need an elbow. I'm quite happy with this pose, like this. I put some pretty big stuff here under this foot, some over there. That already makes him tilt kind of towards the table. Otherwise he's standing back in this grand pose. This way it's more hunched over. I like it as well. And he can point at stuff on this table. Now just the head. With these massive tusks, even though I like them, I think I'm going to have to get rid of them. So I can position his head a little bit better and make him look a bit more down onto that table. So I'm going to see if I can get a different helmet, because I want to keep this one. Yeah, now he's got a clean-shaven Terminator helmet. It looks really much more Imperial than Chaos right now, but with all the bits that are coming after this, don't worry. He'll look like a Chaos, proper Chaos Iron Warriors Terminator Lord. He's ready like this, with the pose. I like it. As if he just finished doing his briefing on this thing, you know, how to invade the Games Workshop HQ. I think it's time to add a few more bits from the Warpsmith. To start with his backpack over here, because this comes with all those pipes and mechadendrites and this sort of cloak of hoses and pipes that come with it. I think it could look pretty cool on this Terminator Lord. Now this is supposed to go onto the backpack of the Warpsmith, but of course this Terminator has no backpack and I don't really want to block that vent. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So I'm just going to get rid of this top part, see if I can cut it off. And then still keep some of those mechadendrites. There, that fits. I think it looks okay. Even from the front, you got a couple of those nice claws sticking out. I just have to finish them on this side, see if I can make it fit. Or else I might have to snip them off and have them come out of his Terminator armor instead. All good. Mechadendrites are all in place, but the thing is they're all pointing that way. So I think I should make him look that way as well. Otherwise, I don't know what's going on. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So it might make better to just turn the head a little bit this way. But then I think I can go back to those elephant tusks and make them look like this. Now I like the pose a bit better as well. There's a bit more movement going on. I really like those tusks. I really wanted to keep those and now I can actually keep them. And this way there's still this table over here. He still has his hand above it. He might still be doing something with it or just finished his briefing. The only thing that's missing now from the original Abaddon model is the big trophy rack that's on his back. But I'm not going to go for a big trophy rack. Not that I don't think Iron Warriors shouldn't collect trophies. I just think that this guy could benefit from a massive cannon or something on his back. Kind of like Iron Father Phyros has a bolter over there. Let's see if I can get something for this guy. And I could just get a missile strike rack from the regular Terminators. But where's the fun in that? I want to do something cool and something stupid. So I'm going for the most stupid guns in all of Warhammer 40k. These guys, the Desolation Marines. I mean, just look at this thing. It doesn't get more ridiculous than this. A massive sort of rocket launcher, and this is also some kind of smaller rocket launchers. But I think it would look cool if I can mount it on his shoulders, somewhere like here, and have it fire along with him. Just gotta get rid of the arm that's attached to it. Now, I cut off the lower part of this gun, because I think it was just getting too silly, too stupid. I just want to mount it up here, but not just flat on the Terminator armor. That would again be a bit silly. So I'm cutting this piece from the same Marines, because it has this sort of mount, this sort of foot that I can place on the armor and then put the gun on top of that. Again, just requires a bit of cutting and sawing and hacking, and we'll get there. Like that. And I got a nice shoulder-mounted missile launcher for him. Just gotta wait for the glue to dry. And then I feel he still needs something on the other side to kind of offset the Imperium flavor that the rocket launcher brings, because that is clearly not Chaos. That's stupidly Imperium. But something on the side there that makes it look a little bit more archaic as well, I think. I feel the gun makes it look a little too modern, perhaps. But let's see. I'm sure I can fix something. I'm gonna see if I can make it work with these exhausts here that I have. These come from the Warpsmith backpack that the mechadendrites were stuck to. I think if I can get them on top of that Terminator armor, I can make it look a little bit more archaic. Okay, he's pretty epic. I quite like him. There's only one thing I feel missing. That's his crotch guard. I clipped off that cloth. And now he's kind of naked over there. So I'm just going to add a few chains, I think. I'm just going to cut a few short lengths of this 1.5 millimeter chain. And then I'm going to glue it in there with some super glue. And if I get all of these here nicely in a row and hanging down, it'll kind of look like chainmail, but then chains. And then with a little bit of super glue, I glue these chains together to also make sure they're not swinging around, because it looks a little bit weird if you have a miniature standing and there's a bit of chain swinging between his legs. Time for a bit of battle damage before I start green stuffing, and then after that comes the painting. I always like to just cut a little V shape out of the ridges of the armor. It shows that something really hit it very hard, probably a melee, or maybe something shot at it and now it took a chunk out. And of course the helmet especially. You know, every bad guy has this ugly scar in his face, and even if it's just a helmet, I still want to see if I can make a scar. You know, 10,000 years of combat. Let's give him a scar over his eye, like that. As if his lens is taken out, exactly like that. And so I go across the model. Little scratches, little dents, big chunks taking out of him. And then we get to some green stuff. For green stuff, all I really need is a little ball here on his arm to connect the claw to, because it just doesn't fit perfectly underneath there because of the bolters they would get against the shoulder pad. So if I put a little bit of green stuff in there, I can make the arm stick out just a tiny bit more. And like that, it's fine. Just have to work it off a little bit once it's dry a little bit more. Now on the other side, this part of his wrist, I'm going to use some Tamiya putty. And it's pretty nasty stuff, that's why the glove. But it's easier to fill these gaps with than green stuff, because it kind of works like a spackle. If you ever filled any holes in a wall, you can just sort of shove it in and then grind it down, sand it down, make it nice and smooth and make it part of the miniature. That's what I did on the shoulder pad to fill in the chaos icon. Now this all needs to dry, and then I think I can start painting, because I know I'm gonna put the table on the base. I know I want more on the base, but I don't know exactly what yet. So I'm just gonna start painting first, and then I'll figure out what I do with the base after that. And I'm gonna make it a little bit of a grimdark, kind of Blanchitsu Iron Warriors paint scheme. And for that, he's primed almost black. This is Dunkelgrau from Vallejo, which isn't exactly black. It's a dark gray. And then I'm gonna sort of make a rough base layer of some Iron Warriors. Dry brushing, stippling, just making it shine a little bit. Oh crap. Oh well, I guess I'm painting in one more sub-assembly than I originally thought. Gives me a bit better access to the shoulder pad, which is fine with me, because I gotta put some decals on them. I'm putting them on this early in the process so that I can weather them and make them blend in a little bit more. Otherwise you have a nice rough sort of grimdark armor and stickers stuck onto them. I'm gonna not use too many, just an Iron Warrior symbol on one side, and I got a couple of these runes as well that I want to put on his legs and his armor. And while the decals are drying, I'm gonna work on some hazard stripes, because what's an Iron Warrior without hazard stripes? And I'm going, against better judgment, to freehand all of this. And I definitely want some hazard stripes on the rocket launcher over here, but also on the shoulder pad, of course. So again, I'm just gonna freehand it, and then I'm gonna see if I can fix the mistakes I make with some black. So with black, I'm just gonna do the same. Put down the brush, drag it, there we go. Hazard stripes done. Because why would a Terminator Lord from the Iron Warriors care about a perfect paint job on his hazard stripes? His whole armor is supposed to be not ornate, as sober as possible. I don't think he minds if the lines are a little bit squiggly and not perfectly straight. And by the way, this is gonna get weathered. I think from a distance, you won't even be able to see that they're not perfectly straight. Anyway, moving on. I'm just gonna weather this decal, and then it's time for the next step, which is a dark brown wash by AK. And it's really, really dark. So I'm working from the bottom up, and then reduce it a little bit, make sure that the top of the Mini is still pretty visible and pretty shiny. But this does darken the Mini down a lot. So I'm gonna dry brush a little bit of silver, especially here around the face, to accentuate that and draw the attention there, and a little bit on the shoulder pads and the knee pads to just make them shine a little bit more. Man, I love painting Iron Warriors. Look at it, such a simple paint scheme, but it works. Some nice bright white silver patches on the armor to make it stand out. And don't worry, I'm not done yet with all the grime and the rust and so on. I also dry brushed a little bit of silver over here to simulate some battle damage on there. And now it's time for the armor trim. I'm gonna use Runelord Brass for this, because it's a nice desaturated brass and at the same time really bright, so it works well in this paint scheme. And by the way, I have a video on my channel about all the different kits, bits and boxes you can get from Games Workshop for converting and kit bashing Iron Warriors. And if you're kit bashing Iron Warriors yourself, you might want to check out that video. And then I shade that with some Ichor of the Damned, a black dark wash. And then I shade that with some exhaust wash from AK Interactive. Nice. It's still a bit bright, but I am working my way towards the next grime pass. First, I just want to do a little bit of rust. And I'm going to keep it pretty simple for now. I'm just going for some typhus corrosion followed by dirty down rust. And I am going pretty hard on the rust with this Iron Warriors Terminator Lord because I really want to show that that armor is betraying this Iron Lord. I want Iron Warriors who have all their faith in iron, you know, iron within, iron without. I want them to then get betrayed by that iron. I think I love it. It adds another grimdark twist to something that's already pretty dark. And armor rusting out around its Iron Lord who believes so much in iron, I think that's a really nice bit of grim darkness for this mini. So loads of dirty down rust in all kinds of nooks and crannies where I added a bit of typhus corrosion, like here. Anywhere that I hit before with a bit of typhus corrosion, get some dirty down rust, and that will pop up extremely bright. So I've got to then darken it down with some rust streaks from AK Interactive, but not too much. I also just want to feather the edges a little bit, make it look more like the rust is growing onto the metal, because dirty down rust, it has a pretty hard edge all around, and so I want to just get the edge with some of these rust streaks. And it allows me the opportunity to hit every little bolt and every little connection with a little bit of rust as well, and to get some actual rust streaks going. Like here, I'm gonna get some streaks going down, and here along the leg as well. And after darkening it down, it's time to lighten it up a little bit again with some medium crusted rust deposits by AK Interactive. I'm just trying to get a little bit here and there, tiny flecks that will just brighten the rust a little bit more. I'm going all in on the rust. I'm getting some dark crusted rust deposits, some light crusted rust deposits, together with the medium and the rust streaks. I'm just going to keep adding more and more variety to rust. Just little bits here and there, just almost stippled on, like here with the dark one that's going to be bright red. A little bit on these chains to just give that rust a little bit more texture, a little more variety. I'm going to go do this. It'll take me an hour. I'll show you the result. Yeah, take a look at that rust. I'm loving it. The chains, there's a lot more variety in there than just using the dirty down. There's lots of bright rust spots, mostly here around his head, because that's where I want to draw the attention. The shins, they look nice and rusted through. Here on the back, we've got this grill. All the heat damage must be damaging that a lot as well. And then we got some nice bits and pieces everywhere. This over here, I like it. That's how rust looks. Like bright in the center, and then it sort of wears out on the edges, feathers onto the metal. I'm really happy with the rust. The only thing I'm not that happy with right now is the armor trim. Look over here, there's big chunks of armor trim that look too pristine, and I want to maybe make it look like the brass is only sort of layered on the ceramite underneath, and maybe I can add some chipping over there. I'm gonna do this with some typhus corrosion on a very small brush, and I'm just gonna stipple it on a little bit here and there and try to get to the edges so that the chip is kind of coming off the edge. And that way I can make it look a little bit more like it's worn, and then once the typhus corrosion is settled, that's like a little texture on there, I can come in and darken it even more with some Acre of the Damned from Villainy Inks. This is black. It dries up glossy to satin, kind of, so it gives a little bit of a shine to this grime again. Because typhus corrosion, since all the other rust is quite more red, it is now looking more like dirt rather than rust. And while I have the Acre of the Damned out, since it's drying up a bit glossy, I can use it as some kind of oil leak. So especially here around the mechadendrites, I'm just going to give this all here a bit of this Acre of the Damned dripping down onto these pipes. And anywhere where I can see two pipes coming together, or a pipe like here goes into the armor or on the Terminator himself, I'm going to add a little bit of this to simulate fluids leaking out of the hydraulics. Now we got a little bit of glossiness next to the dry, dusty rust. See here, these hoses, of course they're leaking. If the stuff is rusting around it, then those hoses are leaking. But this isn't glossy enough for me, so I'm getting some engine oil from AK Interactive, and I'm just going to add a little bits here and there, especially on the connecting points. And over here on the back, for example, there's loads of hoses coming out. There's even a hole here. I still have to figure out how I can cover that up, but I'm going to make it leak some oil out of here as well, and also out of this grill, because, you know, I just want everything to look horrible. And if we're talking horrible, we gotta get some blood effects. So first, a little bit of coagulated blood over here around the claw, where blood could settle in the recesses and dry up. And then after this, we need a little bit of fresh blood spatter on the legs particularly, and I'm just gonna be quite subtle. Just get a little bit here and there. Not too much, there's already so much red from the rust, I don't want to overpower that with gore. Time for the base. I'm going for some pretty industrial city rubble base. First of all, I got this little roll over here. That's gonna be some kind of piping that's gonna be on the ground. Maybe it fell down, maybe that's where it's supposed to be. Who knows? But it's gonna be here. And then some plates of this cork that could be cracked as well. So I'm gonna get a crack. You align that crack over here. Like that. I mean, Terminator stepping on concrete plates. It's probably not gonna last very long. And then on this side, a piece of cork like that. Now, this, I gotta rip off the edges, and that then becomes rubble to get a little bit more elevation on this base. Let's turn that one around like that. Yeah. That'll work. And then I got some industrial looking bits and pieces over here. This bit over here, this comes from my paint boss when I converted Consul to what would be a paint boss orc. Now a paint boy that grows up to have its own WA. And I have another piece here. It comes from the Catacomb command bars from the Necrons when I made my Necron Judge. A leftover Inceptor helmet from when I made my Xenos Marines infected with Tyranid material. And a flamethrower that is left over after I made my word bearers Abaddon, because, you know, you need an Abaddon for every legion, right? Couple of classics, like a Space Marine helmet, and of course, some skulls. Everything's pretty much painted, so time for some texture paste. And I'm gonna do these big slabs with some asphalt, while the smaller pieces become concrete, as if some building block has collapsed and is fallen half into the street, and that's what this Iron Warriors Lord is now standing in front of, planning his next move. Now it has a little bit of grime, and I'm gonna add some pigment powder to this. Because by now we all know what a bombed out city looks like, and there's lots and lots of this concrete dust. And then my Iron Warriors Abaddon conversion is done. And I love him. Look at him standing there. He's kind of scaling a barricade that's there, or just some city rubble that's fallen into the street, with his planning table still next to him. You can imagine other Terminators and attendants around him getting ready for the next big push. I think I hit the sweet spot with all the rust and the decay of the armor to show what I wanted to show. I want to show Iron Warriors that are trusting in iron, but still the iron betrays them as well. The armor fights the Terminator Lord as he tries to fight his enemies. I think it's kind of grimdark, kind of poetic for these Iron Warriors who always struggle with the corruption of chaos, of their own body, but now of their armor as well. I like the weapon. The hammer does a lot for Iron Warriors, of course. Little silly shoulder-mounted rocket launcher adds a bit of firepower that I think an Iron Warriors Terminator Lord should have. They're not pure melee. I mean, Terminators, they get in melee, but they need a little bit of firepower as well. And then the mecha dendrites, I think it adds that little bit of tech, that weird 40k tech that the grimdark future is full of. I really enjoyed making this one. I'm gonna work on my next kitbashing video, which is a Skaven kill team. In the meantime, you can check out this video next.